Tonight marks the 35th night of protests demanding justice for George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Tony McDade, Nina Pop, Rayshard Brooks, Ahmaud Arbery, Elijah McClain, Layleen Polanco, and the countless Black folks and others lost to racist police and state violence. We are also 4 months into COVID, a collective trauma where Black folks are falling ill and dying at tremendous rates. 13% of the population and more than 30% of the deaths. We have depression-level unemployment. Food pantries lines are stretching blocks and blocks with people waiting in their cars for hours. As a Black person, a father to a Black son, and someone who was raising a child with a Black woman who was a frontline healthcare worker, these past 5 weeks have been some of the heaviest of my life. I found myself devastated, enraged, terrified, and exhausted. I've also found myself exhilarated, humbled, moved, and overjoyed. As the national director of a political movement that had a watershed election on Tuesday, and as a proud organizer within the Movement for Black Lives, where we organized hundreds of actions across every state and a number of countries Juneteenth weekend, I'm beaming with pride because the politics I've yearned for and organized for with people like Jessica Bird, who you'll hear from shortly, are coming to pass in real and undeniable ways. So when asked how I'm doing, I say my body's weary, but my soul is on fire. However you feel, I hope you're holding space for you, your community, and others to breathe and to find joy with one another. What began as a grassroots revolt against police brutality has escalated into a historic Black-led, multiracial, cross-class, intergenerational uprising and outright rebellion for Black liberation. We're already seeing the fruits. Minneapolis is disbanding its police department and rethinking public safety from the ground up. Public schools in Minneapolis, Milwaukee, Seattle, Portland, Denver, and Oakland have cut ties with the police. Los Angeles, New York City, Boston, and Rochester are making plans to reduce the power, depth, and scope of their police departments. And while mail-in ballots are still being counted, a multiracial slate of WFP candidates, especially Black candidates, is leading in recent primaries. Jamal Bowman, who you'll hear from in a few minutes, Mondir Jones, for example. Now, you don't win as a young, gay, Black progressive in a mostly white, suburban, affluent district unless you have serious talent and vision. Jamari Brisport, a WFP-backed socialist who won an open state Senate seat in Brooklyn, and Khalil Anderson, a young progressive activist from the Rockaways, who will at 24 be the youngest member of the New York State Assembly. In Kentucky, WFP endorsed Charles Booker, a Black progressive from Kentucky's poorest zip code, who at this moment leads and is leading the anointed Democrat, the pro-Trump Amy McGrath, for a Kentucky Senate seat. They didn't win by distancing themselves from what was happening in the streets. They ran championing the demands that were exploding from the grassroots by joining the protest. And their victories have rewritten what is possible. Defunding and disbanding the militant arm of the white supremacist police state, and in its place, building a society worthy of the sacrifice of our ancestors, is something that many of us have dreamed and fought for our entire lives, but until now has seemed just a little bit out of reach. Well, today we're daring to reach for it. We're forcing decision makers to reduce funding for policing and prisons and to invest in what really keeps our communities safe. And we're electing candidates who aren't just accountable to the movement, but part of it. This is about more than police violence. It's about the ways systemic racism keeps Black people in particular, but also Brown, Native, and other folks of color down. From healthcare to jobs to housing to the environment, it's also about how working class poor people and other folks, including white folks, can break away from the solidarity of whiteness to join a multiracial solidarity movement for freedom. This is a long-term fight for health, safety, prosperity, and joy. And we aren't even ready yet. We're just getting started. And we're not going to be free until all of us are free. We have a historic task in front of us. Protest moments and street actions don't last forever. Therefore, our duty is to continue to fan the flames of resistance on the streets and to work in this moment to build the power that would deliver structural shifts in how we organize our economy, our society, and our government. When we elect our own leaders, we make real steps towards our collective liberation. The opposition will be fierce. Reactionary forces will do everything to block and reverse the gains the movement has made. In the long term, we're taking on white supremacy and racial capitalism, the modus operandi of our global order. The systems that have divided us since the founding of our country will continue to pit us against one another, using any and all lines of difference they can exploit. Forging unity and solidarity, reaching out across difference, this is the hope and promise of the Working Families Party. Working with the Movement for Black Lives, our commitment is no less than remaking our democracy to ensure Black people and all people have an equal voice and dignity. Together, we will forge from the crucible of mourning and rage, a future that is built on freedom, prosperity, and joy. I am honored to be in the struggle with you all. We are winning. This is but the first inning. We will not stop until all of us can thrive.